So I've been learning to create some VFX effects for a while now, and these are some of the stuff that I made, and out of which 5 of them we are going to make today. So let's see what we are going to make today, which are going to be very beginner friendly so that anyone could make. First is going to be this Firefly effect, where it is just fireflies with just moving everywhere. You could even use this for dust particles or lava particles or anything, just to create some nice visuals. So the next thing we are going to learn is this fire effect. You could see how this looks. You could even make smoke with this same effect, like just changing the texture and all, or just add any effect you want. It is also used for magical stuff. For example, you could see this is same fire. This is like same but with just different texture, and then just changing the color can make it look like a, I guess, aura or something behind or on your hands or behind your character or on your weapon. The third thing we are going to learn is this, what you call this, like sparks. Basically, let's say there's a wire in here which needs to be repaired. You could show that it sparks, or you need to just block someone's route. The third thing we are going to learn is this orb, which was something that I was trying to make like Valorant smoke, but again I was very new to it, so I just decided to go with whatever I could make. You could say this is like similar effect, but some effects have been done differently. So both of these are kind of similar, but just some texture difference. And the fifth one and last one is going to be this effect, which is just razor blade or saw blade. You could have anything spinning. It doesn't have to be just this one. If you want to make a firecracker, you know, there's firecrackers which moves like this, or have something else, you could do that with this too. These are very beginner friendly and very easy to do. There's some more stuff that I've made like practicing this stuff. So you could see all this stuff I've practiced to make. Some of them you could also find tutorials, like this is completely a tutorial which I followed when I was starting to learn it. There's an implosion effect. This is just I don't know what to call this. This is also a tutorial available, but I've also made my own version for homing missile, so you could check that out. There's some butterflies which I made myself. They still don't look good because they turn like very weirdly. This is also a tutorial online for it. This is also a tutorial online for it. And recently I was making something like this, where I was practicing to create sword trails. So I do want to make a video on sword trails pretty quickly, and please ignore if my PC loads a bit slow because I'm recording. So you could see some sword trail effect with the combo system. So I do plan on making a video, but again I literally learned this like a week ago. So I don't think I should teach something which I literally learned like a week ago. But you could see all this VFX that I've made has actually helped me understand how to do all this stuff. So yeah, pretty cool. Let's start. Now, some basics of VFX that you need to understand, like Game VFX or general, that VFX is not just Niagara Particles. Okay, so we will be using Niagara Particle system for making this, like you see, particles, but it is not just Niagara Particles. It is a mixture of mesh, materials, Niagara Particles, and blueprints. If you want to have some stuff, like for example, this one would require blueprint so that it only shows the animations when you have clicked something, right? You don't want to show this effect constantly. So there are like 4 of these things that are required, but it's not like you will always use 4 of this stuff. It will only be, sometimes you might use just 2, sometimes you might just use 3, and usually 3 is commonly used. For example, this one doesn't have any Niagara Particles. This is just made with a mesh and a material, you could see, but this one is simply made with Niagara Particles. Now, even though I'm saying that, hey, we are only using Niagara Particles, it's not actually true, because when you make a Niagara Particle system, you're always going to use a mesh and material, and it is something that is already added by the Niagara Particles. I'll explain it a bit and you will understand. But what I'm saying is that Niagara Particle already has a mesh and material already added. Now you could see this one, this waterfall is just a mesh. It is just a cylinder which is basically moving up and down with material, with the WPO option in material, and just a texture that is moving from up to down, which makes it look like it's a waterfall. So I hope you understand this thing, that it doesn't always have to be all 4 of this stuff, but it's completely dependent on what you want to do. The first thing we are going to make is a Firefly effect. So let's go into our Niagara system and create it. I'm just going to choose empty Niagara system. You might need to search empty if you're using older version and choose empty option, not completely empty but empty. If you're using 5.6, then there's no empty option, you just have to click here. So let's call it ns underscore, I guess tutorial 2, so tut2 for me. Now one thing about Niagara system is that you can actually place this in the world. Okay, let me make sure it is visible. So if you are in game mode, which you press by G, it would not be visible. You could see. So you could see I can actually place this in the world. Now there is something called Niagara emitters. So if I click Niagara emitters, again we get like all these presets, but I'm going to create empty one and call it any underscore Firefly. Okay. So now we have a Niagara emitter, but you could see I cannot place this in the world. So why is that? Well, it's simple. Niagara system is something that can be added, and Niagara system, if I double click on it, we can actually add emitter in it. And you cannot just add one emitter, you could add multiple. So you could see, you could just tag them like multiple effects. So for example, if you had fire, then you would have one for smoke, one for sparks and all that stuff. We are not going to make anything complicated like that. And you could actually move this. I don't know how to move it in front, I don't remember. I haven't really done it, but you could change the timer and all, make it that it only starts from here. I need to look into it, but for this video we just have to make simple stuff. And one more thing, you might not have this option minimal emitter in the older version, so you could go into add emitter and choose empty like this and add it, or you could add from here it might have an option called minimal or empty. But here's the thing, we already created a emitter around here. So if I go in here and drag it, I can just add it like this. And if I go into emitter, we can actually search for the Firefly, and you could see we already have one. This is the previous one, but this is the one that I made. So why I say to make two different stuff, and why not just go in here and start making it? Well, it's simple. You could actually reuse this in different systems. So instead of creating it every single time, maybe just create one effect and then have it like this, and you could simply just drag and drop it to multiple systems without having to worry. And what's crazy is that you could actually override some stuff. So you could see there is lock in here. If I double click on the emitter, you can see if I do right click, nothing's showing up because it only allows one emitter. But if I do, it shows all this stuff. Now the thing is, it says lock. So if I click delete, you could say it does not allow me to delete because it is taking all the information from here. Now obviously you could override some stuff. So if I make this, let's say 10 in the system, you could see I get two options. One is gray and one is green. If I click on green, it will do whatever setting I have added in here, but you could also overwrite it in here. So it just makes a good way to create a template that we could reuse again and again. And maybe you could reuse it for dust particles or just effects around your, I guess, a tree or something. So let's start making in here and let's start understanding. So this is, maybe it might not look same to you around here. So make sure to go into Windows and click preview settings. It might open like this. In the newer versions, you could actually just click in here and choose it. And what I've done is I've basically disabled this one, show environment, and made this color to be black. So this one just makes it easy to see. Okay, let's go to details again. In the newer versions, they just have a shortcut in here, but there's no option to change the color. So just use the same method that I did. Now any changes that you do in here would automatically be applied to the system because it is now taking all of this. It is basically inheriting these values. Unless you actually change it in here, then it would be not same. So let's get started and understand what this is. We can ignore this, and it goes from top to bottom. So we have emitter spawn. This is basically for the emitter. Then we have emitter update. You would probably never use emitter spawn. I don't even know what it is used for. Then we have emitter update, so that every time it updates, we need to do something. Then we have particle spawn. Particle spawn is every time a particle is spawned from this emitter. We have particle update. Basically, as the particle goes, we can keep updating its value. Then we have render, which is like what should be rendered at the particle spots. So let's quickly go one by one. Okay, so in the emitter update, you'd usually not do anything in here. I don't even know what it is used for, but in the emitter update, we will go in here and choose one of this stuff. So we have spawn rate, spawn per unit, spawn burst. There's also spawns per frame, which is experimental. That is something that I use for my trails, like SWOT trails. Spawn rate, if I click on here, if you cannot see anything, you could press F and hope that it's, let's just make it 10. I think it's not visible. Okay, there we go, 10. So it is spawning 10 per second. You could see number of particles per second to spawn. So every second 10 particles are being spawned at the same location. If you cannot find it, just press F and it will quickly take you there. So what is this spawning? It is basically spawning whatever is in the renderer. Okay, so we have sprite renderer, and like I said, it uses a material. Now if I remove this, you could see it is just a mesh. It's just a plain mesh. So remember when I said that when you add a Niagara system, it is always going to have a material and a mesh. For sprite, by default, it uses a plane which always looks at wherever you are. So it always faces you. So I'm actually turning, you could see I'm actually turning, but it is always going to face me unless you add some rotation or something. Okay, then it uses like default sprite material, which is available like this. So if I double click in this one, this material, you would see there are some nodes in here, which is a bit complex, but nothing anything crazy. I think it's older version or something, but I'll explain this a bit later. Okay, or maybe let's just create a material. I think it would be better to understand before. So I'll call it m underscore, I guess, radial circle, something like this. Let's double click on this one, and then usually for renders like Niagara Particles, we use a different shader material. So this one is using something that is going to take, like, say, shadows or any different light that is popping up. It will take that all that stuff. Okay, so it will take a reference, specular, and all that stuff. We don't want all that. We just want a nice glowy stuff. So we'll select this, turn this into additive. Let me show the environment. I think that would give a bit of an example. So nothing showing up, that is okay. In the radial circle, I'll just make this to be unlit, and unlit basically means that nothing else would affect it. So no other light would affect it, no shadow will affect it. If it's in light, it like nothing else in the environment will affect it. It is also good to create it two-sided, because if you are making the sprite turn, even though it's facing us always, if you add some turning and all, then it would not look good. So make sure two-sided. And now if I press 3 and I add emissive color, so if I press 3 and do left click, I can add constant 3, or you could just search for constant 3 by doing right click. In here, let's make it pink, I don't know, and you could see it's suddenly showing, but it is actually a sphere. By default, we use a plane, right? So always look at it from a plane perspective. And you could see, because we have set this to additive, it is now adding to the background. So you could see it is actually a bit transparent, even though we have set the opacity 1, but it is basically adding to the whatever it's in the background. If I do multiply this and maybe like set to 20, it would be like more glowy like this, and it would also be shiny. Basically, you could see I'm also going to hide the background, and you could see this is basically how it looks. Is post-processing on? I don't remember. So you could see, for me, I had actually done the post-processing off. By default, it should be on for you, but in case it is not, then make sure it is enabled in the preview settings. It might even be an option in here. Yeah, you could check here in the newer versions. So you could see this is how it's going to look basically if you multiply, and if you add it like this and maybe make the value to be 50, it's going to look the same. You could see this is how it looks. Now what I want to do is I want to have a particle color. So let's select particle color from here and then just add it in here. Now you don't need to do it if you just want to use the default one. You could see it's same stuff, but I want to explain how it works. So this one, what this does is that whatever you set in the particle in here will be applied to this effect. Okay, so again, you don't need to worry much, just add RGB here. And then we also have opacity. So if I search for radial gradient exponential like this and add it to the opacity, it is now a sphere, because it basically turned anything around here to be black and anything in the center to be white. Now what one thing to do is it's good to multiply this and add the opacity from the particle color, so alpha from it, and then add it here. Okay, you could also do it with same with this stuff. If you have something else that you want to add, like a texture or something that you want to add, you could do it that way too. But for this easy beginner friendly one, we just add it like this. So all these red nodes which are present in the Unreal's material editor are actually for this particle effect. So there are like some of the stuff like dynamic parameters and all this, these are for particles. So when you use this material in the particles, the data will be taken from here. Okay, you could say it says input data. So whatever you set in here would be applied to this stuff. So this is how simple one that you could make. Okay, and again, make sure to multiply the alpha in here, because in the particle we can actually control the alpha, which is the opacity, which maybe we want to fade it out or something. Then if you do that, then you have to make sure it is set to opacity, else it would never have the data from it. Okay, now it is called m_radial circle. We can go in here and choose that one, radial circle. There we go. If I add it, apply it, you could say it is now looking perfect. So just know that you can actually just use our own material to a plane in here. Now usually you don't need to do it for the first effect that we are doing. On most of the effects you don't really need to worry about the material, but I think it's good to learn it, especially this is the first part. Okay, because in the future videos I'm not going to explain it. I'm just going to say that watch this first video if you want to go into much more details. Another thing I forgot to tell you guys, that I actually have a video called Shader VFX Fundamentals. I also have a blog post. You could also check it in my YouTube channel and then watch this video, or you could read about it from here. So this one also goes into a bit of a detail that you could check around here. You could see how to move it, how to change this stuff and all that. It goes into like the technical or math stuff, which is like very basic. So let's learn now. Now we have done spawn rate, we have spawn per unit. This one is basically like every time you move the particle or the system, how much to spawn. And then we have spawn burst instantaneous, basically spawn instantly, like it will spawn 10 instantly and then just stop. Okay, so it's good for something like explosion or something where you just want to spawn it once and not spawn it continuously. For us, I'm going to do spawn rate, so every 10 seconds it is spawning 10. Now we have particle spawn. So usually this is all you do in this emitter update, but in the particle spawn update and render is something that you do like commonly and lots of stuff. So initialize particle, we have how long it should exist. So right now each particle is living for 5 seconds. Okay, so after 5 seconds they disappear. Then we have color. And also one more thing, lots of the stuff have an option called direct set or random, or you could even go in here like this arrow, and you could also choose like a random range float, which is same as doing random. Okay, so if you don't have an option, you could actually do from here, and there are like lots of different options which we will be using. So in the color, I'm just going to do direct set and then make it yellow and make it this 50 so that it is glowing. Make sure post-processing is on, else you would not see this glowing effect. Okay, just from here or go into preview settings and make sure it is on in here. Okay, whichever one that you prefer. Now we got this effect which is always going to face us. Then if we go down, we have sprite attributes, mesh attributes, ribbon attributes. Now we are using a sprite renderer, so we don't really need to worry about this too. But if you go in here, you could actually do lots of stuff. You could have decals, you could have lights. So if you want to have some light on here that you want to do, we have mesh. So if you want to use a 3D mesh, lots of time you would be using like some if you want to create like some stylized look and all. We have ribbon. Ribbon is basically from one end to the second end, it will basically create a ribbon. Okay, very basic stuff, and we are usually using sprite renderer. So anything that you add here would not be affected because there is no renderer. Unless you add multiple, you could add multiple, or you could just add one. So let's do sprite rise and let's do random uniform. So let's do, now we can not see, but it is being 5 to 10. So it is randomly choosing between 5 to 10. So let's go into our particle spawn and choose a shape location. Let's press F, and now you could see it is now spawning in differently in like 100 100 sphere radius. Make sure to play this. Now you could see how it is spawning. So it is spawning in 100 sphere radius. You have like lots of different options that you could use. There's like distribution, transform. For this video, let's just go with basic stuff. I want to spawn them in a box though. So box, and then it spawns like this. You could see. Let's update this. You could see every time I'm updating, it's already updating from here, but sometimes it does not. Then you need to remove this and add it again. Okay. And let's see in the live page, I'm pressing G to hide it. So this is how it's looking, very small. So let's go into the shape location, make it like 500, and let's do apply. And now we got something nice. So let's just move it a bit up. And you could see as we move, it is actually keeping them there. Now I want to make sure that they don't live for that long. So let's go into random and then say, I guess 1 to 2 is good. So now they exist for 1 to 2 seconds only. Or maybe let's do like 2 to 5 so that it's randomized and a bit longer. It is also possible to randomize the color. So if you choose, I guess select linear color from array. Nope, not this one. Let's go back. Also, when you're editing, sometimes you might go in here and edit it, and then you might realize that, oh, I did it in the wrong way. So just make sure to be in here. Okay. So that you are doing it in the emitter and not the system. So yeah, random linear color, and then you could choose like 2 different colors too if you wish to, so that there's some variations. But I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to do, yellow color 50 and do OK. The shape location is 500, 500, 500. Let's do all this stuff. Let's keep it like this. Now one thing, like I said, the particle spawn would only apply some stuff at the start. So if I go in here and add something like add velocity, there would be an error. So let's click fix issue, and it will add this solve force and velocity in the particle update, because it needs to keep updating. If you delete this accidentally, then you might need to add it yourself. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Sometimes you might delete it yourself and then it would just not fix it for you. And now you could see we got something that is just moving up as it goes up and up. I don't like the size of it, so I'm just going to make it, I guess, 1 to 5, so it looks a bit like a particles. And you could see now they are moving up. If you go into add velocity, you could see it is velocity XYZ. You could increase the speed, you could make it from point. So now it will basically just go away. There's cone option and all that stuff. I'm not going to use this at all. So let's remove the velocity. But in the particle update, I'm going to add something called curl noise force. Curl noise force basically adds a force in a noise pattern. So we use noise to do some randomization like a texture and all. I've already explained it in the big VFX 101 video, but usually something like this, a noise pattern is basically moved over the the particles basically. Now you could see we got some nice movement going around. Looks pretty cool, right? And now you could obviously play with the strength. You could pan the noise a bit if you want, so that the texture that is moving is just moving left to right a bit more. You could increase the speed, the frequency, apply this, and you can see we got something that is moving too much right now. But again, play around with the values. I'm not going to fine tune the values in this video because then it would be too long. Now we can do some more stuff. That is, in the particle update, we could choose something called scale color. Now remember where I'm using, I want to do something that is ongoing stuff or when it is updating, so I'm doing it in the particle update. If I want to do something at just the start, then I'll add it in the particle spawn. So always keep that in mind. Okay, so the scale color option basically has like RGB and alpha. So if you want to change the color as it moves, then you could use scale RGB, but we don't want to, so I'll use scale alpha. Alpha is basically opacity, right? So 0 would be invisible, 1 would be fully visible. Like I said, you could go in here and choose something called float form curve, and you could see it says curve index normalize age. So in here we have the age as 2 to 5, right? So it will be 2 seconds or 5 seconds or anything in between, like 3, 3.5 or anything in the between. So in here, what this says is that from at the start B1, so the opacity is B1, and at the end B0. So this would create a fade out effect. So as it goes down and down, it will start fading out. You could say it is now fading out. Make sure in this one, alpha is actually connected to the multiplier, okay? Because this is where the values are getting, like this is where from the values it is been sent. So as it goes towards the end of the life, it basically starts slowly fading out. You could actually play some more with this, and maybe you can add this. So let's select the first one, make this 1, add a key in here and make this 0, add a key in here, make this 1, add a key in here, make this 0. I don't know where the last one went. Why is it there? Press F to kind of fit in this space. So it is 1, and then maybe once more. Let's make this 1. Let's add once more. Let's make this 0. So as it goes in this lifetime, it will go from 1 to 0, 0 to 1. And if I click here, you could see it is kind of going to fade out and in. So it's not really visible that much, like this effect. You see it is doing that. So maybe we just delete this one so it stays hidden for a while. So let's see this. You could see they are like hiding and then coming back a while later. So it went out. No, that's completely invisible. Okay, so this is basically just making some blinking effect. To make it even better, you could click on all of this and right click and make it auto so that it is a bit nicer. Maybe user, nope. So auto is kind of making it go below this one. So let's select all of it. I guess user, yeah, user works better. And now it will not just instantly disappear, but it would be smoother. Okay, so that's how you can create some Firefly effects. It is moving everywhere, going anywhere. So pretty cool, pretty easy to do. And I'm trying to go into much more details so that in future I don't have to make big videos like this. So let's just disable this in the emitter or system, and then let's start creating another one. So the second one that we are going to make is this effect, and I'm going to start going a bit faster because we have already done lots of the detailed stuff, explanation I mean. So let's create a new emitter, empty any underscore tut underscore flame or something, fire or something. Okay, let's add it into our tutorial, and we got it added here. Okay, let's open the flame. So let's quickly start doing all that stuff. Okay, so for sprite render, let me just change this to the one that I created, radial circle. You can use the default one. Okay, I want to show something else, which is why I'm using this material, but you could use the default one. In the emitter update, we want to spawn rate. Let's do 50 for this one because it's good to have high for something like flame. Next, go into initialize particle. Let's set a lifetime. of, I guess, randomized to. Let's do, I guess, 2 to 5. I don't know. We will change these values. What we need to do is we need to add a velocity to this, and we need to do fix issue, make it go up. So because flames go up, let's do apply and see how this looks. So the flame size would be this much. Okay, let's go into initialize particle and make sure we have set the color to something which is like flame like, which is like red, and maybe 50. So we got something that is moving like this. Now with flames, it needs to get smaller as it goes up. So in the particle update, we will do scale color. Actually not scale color, scale size. So scale sprite size. There are like lots of different ones, but we are using sprite. Here you could see. So we will use sprite. And then make it go high to low like this. Let's apply. Now you could see that I did this, but nothing's happening. Why is that? Now whenever you do something like scale color, scale sprites, or anything else, you need to go into initialize particle and need to have a size set. If you don't have anything set around here like unset or color is not set, this would not work. So let's go in here and set it to be, for now let's just keep it uniform like 20. And you could see that as it goes up, it is starting to get smaller and smaller. I also have scale color already here, so how about we just do some more stuff? Or actually, you know what, screw it, let's do this one. So let's do shape location, and let's do like 10, something like small, or 5, so that there's some variation. Okay, maybe 3. Let's do, I guess, 3. I don't know, let's see. We will keep changing values. For the lifetime, it needs to be smaller, because right now if I do save and then check it in here, never mind, it is pretty small. It just looks big in here. How much further it is going? It's going too much. It is already looking like a flame if you look at this top. So I'm going to reduce the lifetime to be like 1 to 2. So I guess it is good enough. And also I'm going to increase the size. I don't like how small it is, so maybe 50. Okay, looks good. Maybe like 30. We can also do some randomization so that it is good. So let's do 20 to 30. Some variation so that it doesn't look all the same. I'm going to press G to hide it. We kind of have a flame like effect already. You could see. So again, I'm going to add some curl noise force, just like we did for the Firefly. The curl noise force basically adds some noise when it goes from its lifetime. So as it goes up and up, it will keep adding some noise. If I add, let's say, something like 100, make sure to add some panning, okay, else it would not look good enough. Okay, panning is kind of making it look like there's wind. Maybe we don't do this, or should we? Like, maybe reduce this and reduce the frequency. Yeah, so I think curl noise force is not actually helping us, so let's just hide it for now. Let's try reducing the spawn rate. That looks way too bad, like 20. Okay, let's keep 20 for now. I like to reduce the spawn rate as low as possible until it still looks good. That way we don't use like lots of resources. Now for flame, I want it to change the color. So in the scale color, scale RGB, I'm going to go in here and choose. There's no direct option, so you need to actually search for it, which is linear color, and which is make vector from linear color RGB. And then when you do that, we get the option of color, which we choose, and then choose color from curve. There we go. Let's do apply and see if it's doing any changes. So you could see nothing's actually happening. Let's make it have something like the same color, like 50 red color at start, and at the end we'll make it be something like yellowish 50. Maybe in this color we just make this basic, so that everything else is just based from this scale color, so we don't have to do double time. we get something which is going from orange to yellow. I will also be changing the alpha to have the same effect that we had previously, like float from curve, but instead of making it go like slowly, I'll just make it at the end. So at the end it basically goes quicker. So you could see this is how it looks. Now I'm going to go into our material. So in the material, if I go in here, not this one, my bad, this sprite renderer, why is it using this default material? Okay, let's remove this and add it again. It is using the default one. This is one issue that I've found, that sometimes it would not update in this one, and when you click in here it just doesn't work. So okay, this is looking good. So let's go into a radial material and try something. Let's press T and add a texture sample, or you could right click and search for texture sample. In the texture, I'll use a cloud texture. So you might not have this texture, it's very easy to make, but if you want, you could go to my website. You could actually go to my website, go into products. It's free, it's not paid. Here is the option cloud texture. Just click on it and download, and you could use this texture. If you don't want to use this, in Photoshop there's an option called render clouds. That's literally what I've done. It's literally the same texture that I made with Photoshop's render cloud. It's very quick to do, like takes like 2 seconds or 5 seconds. And this is actually called a packed texture. Packed texture is basically, you know, it allows you to have 3 different texture in one single image. So you could see there are 3 different textures in here. Okay, so you could just get a black and white texture. You don't need to create a packed texture, but I just created it because I like to have some variation. Let's do a multiply. Let's multiply this with this. You could see we get something like this. So this radial gradient would basically mask anything that is in the left, like top left, top right, and all this stuff. And let's connect it to this one. So we got something like this. And again, remember, I'm connecting R channel. If you are using a black and white, you could do RGB or do R, because it's just one value. Please watch this 101 video if you want to understand it in details, how this masking, multiply and all that works, how addition and all that works. Watch that video, it's really good. And you could see we are already seeing some effect happening, but it doesn't look good, right? So what we could do is we can go in here and press P and add this. Press P plus left click. Okay, hold P and do left click and add it in the UV and do like one like this. Now you could see that the texture is actually moving and it kind of gives a nice effect. It's still not looking good enough. So let's do, instead of multiply, let's do subtract instead. Let's take this up and subtract our texture from here. I've already explained in the 101, okay, VFX 101, what this all does. So we get this nice effect. Maybe this one does not have any black spot. There needs to be like more black or white spots. So I know that in my B channel, there's like a better version, like I showed before. Okay, so you could see, and we got some fire effect. Pretty cool, right? And the thing is, if you press this and move it, it looks like this. If you don't want this much space when moving, just increase the spawn rate a bit more, or use spawn per unit if you want. No, not spawn per unit, just spawn rate. You could like hold this and press G to hide it to see how it looks. Okay, now if you do more stuff, if you like animate the texture and all and use like a animated smoke sprite sheet, then it would look even better. But for now, for something that needs to be done like so quick, this looks good enough. And obviously, if you want, you could add like more emitters which would have, let's say, a smoke. Just do the same stuff but with just different sprite renderer, just like different texture, or maybe even have same texture, or maybe don't even have the same texture, just have a sphere like the default texture, and have black and a gray what you call like gray emitter, and behind this you could have another one which would have even smaller one, which would be embers. Okay, So just have like 3 different one of them. For this video, I think this is more than enough. Just, copy this 2 more times and have like a smoke one for gray, and 1 more time which would be like very small particles, and that would be embers. So for our third effect, we are just going to create this particle stuff, and this one basically has the option to collide with stuff, you could see. And let's do it quicker this time because it's being way too big of a video. So let's create sparks. So let's go to effects, emitter. This one you should be able to create directly now, except the collision because I didn't explain it, but most of the stuff is very basic. Okay, we have already done that. So spark tut, I'm going to drag it in here and hide this. So we got spark tut. Let's close this and let's go to our tut, spark tut basically. For this one, I'm using the default one because we did some changes in our like radial circle texture. Or we can just remove this, all this stuff, so that it's quicker. It's your choice which one you want to use. So let's quickly do it this time. Okay, so we have spawn rate in our emitter update. Let's do 20. We have particle spawn. We have initialize stuff. So let's set to be white. We can do the changes in color later. Let's set the lifetime to be different. So let's do, I guess, 1 to 2 for time being. We have to set a sprite size because if we don't, then it would not look good. So let's do random non-uniform. So uniform is basically, it would scale equal sizes like height and width, but if you do random, or not random, just non-uniform, then you could scale it differently. So if I do, let's say 50, I can make it stretch. If I do 50 in here, I can make it stretch like this. So let me do random non-uniform so that we have some variation. And let's make this same size, the x-axis, and let's make this 20, maybe 30, so it's randomized. I don't know if we should make left or up. We will figure it out later. We can change this later. In the particle update or in the particle spawn, we will add velocity. Fix issue, we will not do at the top, we will do at the side. So something like this. 20, we need to change this. So 10, 5, 30, 5. So we got something that is pushing on the left side. This velocity, I don't want to add as a linear, I want to add it as a cone. So there's a cone, imagine there's a cone like this, we are adding it stuff. Okay, let's do 200 so that it's fast. Let's do, and this is like cone axis, so 1 basically means that it is facing x-axis. Okay, and it is good because our velocity or our particle are also facing in that direction. If you do something like 1 in here, it will go up. So let's do 1. There's cone angle and all that stuff. Let's keep it default, I guess. Maybe 90. That would be like too much. Let's do 60. Yeah, that's good enough. Now I want these particles to face wherever they are going. Okay, so let's go into sprite renderer. Say alignment. I want it to face the velocity aligned. Okay. Now when I set this to velocity aligned, I need to go back and probably do this stuff. Just change the sizing or change the orientation. So now it will always face wherever it is going. Now in the particle update, I want to do is collision. Now let's apply this. I don't know why it's stopping there. What's annoying to me is that it looks okay in here but does not look okay in here. Okay, so I forgot, I was doing stupid. I thought I added gravity and not collision. So let's add gravity. And let's keep it above our collision. And you could see it is working. I don't know why it is facing like different direction in here. Let's try removing and adding this and hopefully that fixes it. If not, we will need to change the orientation in here. Yep, it is fixing. Yeah, there we go. So now if we go into our velocity and maybe make it, let's say something like 500. We can see we are already getting some sparks. Let's make the cone angle to be low. It should be like 0, 30, I think, or maybe 50. Okay. And I don't know why it is falling down in here, but it is looking good enough in here. Okay, not sure why it is looking weird in here, but as long as it works here, it's good. I'm going to also increase the size of it. So we have set to 510, so let's do 510, 550. Okay, looks good enough. Also, there's actually an option in here which is called scale sprite size by speed. So when it is like high speed, it will basically stretch. You could also use that, but I like to do it this way. Now we need to do is scale the color. Let's do a linear color. So let's search for linear color. And then let's do is random. Nope. Let's do color from curve. Okay. So here you could see normalize range age. I hope I used the correct one in the previous one. So let's do 50 at start, and then let's do yellow with 50 at the end. Let's do apply. And we got our spark particles. Okay. And again, I know it looks not the same as this much. You could see I've done red in here, white, yellow in here, and red at the end. But everything else that I've done is just playing around with the values. Okay. So going in here and making sure it's not that big, or even do like 1, 1 and something like this. Okay, there we go. Looks like sparks, and everything else is just going to be your speed and all. Okay, so you could see, just play around with the velocity and all that stuff. If you want, you could even make the opacity be hidden at the end, but because sparks kind of fade out as they lose their heat. So yeah, that's one thing that we did already. So the next thing I'm going to learn, or that we are going to learn, is going to be this stuff, which does not require Niagara particles. So let's start making it. For this one, you are going to require texture, and the texture that I found, I'll link it in the description. It's completely free. It's a texture, texture pack, VFX texture pack. So you could see in here we have Kenny's texture, Lewis noise texture, and all that stuff with lots of cool stuff. Okay, I'm going to go into this 512 by 512, go into turbulence, and I'm going to use this texture. Okay, just keep that in mind. Go into turbulence and find this texture. I'll leave the link in description, or you could use your own texture. It's completely okay. So for this, we actually need to create a sphere first. So let's go into your sphere, basic, and do not basic, shape, and add a sphere. Drag and drop here. Now one thing you guys need to understand is that this is a UV sphere, I believe. Let me see. Yeah, you could see this is this type of sphere where at the top it is connecting like this. You could see, I think it's called UV sphere in Blender. So by default, the one that is available in Unreal already uses this, so which is a good thing. But if you plan to create it in a Blender, then in Blender 3D, then make sure to use UV sphere and increase some, maybe you want more divisions for nicer animations. Then you could do is add more of this stuff and use UV sphere. Let's make this a bit bigger. Now we are going to create a material, and I'm going to call it m_tutorial sphere or something, and just add it around here. Or actually, I'm going to do right click, create material instance, so that we can control it easily and create material instance around here. Okay, now let's go to the parent material or master material. Let's do all the same setup. So additive, unlit, don't need to do two-sided, because again it's going to be visible from all the side. We are not going to check it from the inside. Now we need to add a texture. So get a texture sample. You could do T and hold left click. Hold T and do left click. Connect the RGB to the emissive. In here we need to select the turbulence texture that I showed before, which is in 512 turbulence. Select this one, and you could see the reason why I'm choosing this is because it goes from left bottom right to bottom left like this. And this type of texture works better where it goes from bottom left to bottom right. If you have texture which is like left to right or top to bottom, you could basically rotate it. Okay, so I'll do left this one. As long as you have selected here, you could just press this one and it will automatically add it. We already have a sphere in here so that we can check it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a panner, and as soon as I move it up, it is going to make sure real time is on. You could press Ctrl R to enable it, and then do left like this. And we already got one of the effects ready, which is to just move it. And again, I highly suggest you watch the VFX 101 video. I go into so much detail of this one for, you know, panning and how this works, like how the panner works, how you could create it yourself, and like how to have more control than just panner and all that stuff. Now it is moving left like this. Looks pretty cool. You could reduce the speed like 0.5. Now we will take this RGB and then just add the opacity. Again, you could even connect it like this, but you know this is just a black and white texture, so you could just connect R. If you connect RGB like this, it will only take the R value because it can only take 0 to 1 values. I've explained in the big video, so again don't want to go in much detail. And now you could see it is now visible a bit more. Now what I want to do is I want to add a color in here, so I'll take multiply node, press M and then do left click or just search multiply. I'll do constant 3, convert this into a parameter and call it as sphere color and connect it. God damn it, I keep pressing like Ctrl Z, which is on my tablet, like drawing tablet. Okay, let's connect it in here, sphere color. The reason why I turned this into a parameter, okay, if you guys don't know about like materials about you know, Unreal engines, we basically, where's the tutorial? Remember how I created a master material and did material instance? If I now click in here in the instance, you would see that I now have the option in here, and this way you could just create one master material and have different material instances with each different settings. And that is a actual good way to do it. Do not use like a weird method. Okay, that's like the only good method to do it. So if I add white color, it would be white in here. I can now go in here and then basically say that I want different color. Okay, you could see, because if you do it in here, it would not change this quickly. You will need to go in here and do apply. If you have like 10 different stuff, then you will need to wait for it to update everywhere. So make sure to do material instance so that you don't need to compile it again and again. When you do apply, it basically compiles the shader. So this material instance is just a quick way to control it. Now what I do want to do is, you know how we can control this one, like turn this into 50 and now it will be glowing. What I want to do instead is I'll add a multiply, connect it here, and I'm saying that add a constant 1, press 1 to left click or search for constant and then connect it here. Make sure to add 1 in here because anything multiplied by 0 would give us 0, right? So 1 would basically be like no changes. Let's convert this to parameter and call it as intensity. Now you could see the parameter is available here. We can also create a group quickly, like base something like this, okay, and then add it in a base and then do save, so it would be in a nicer format. I've already explained this multiply and all that like in the big video. And then now I can simply just drag this up and out, so I don't need to input a value from here. And let's select, I guess, a bluish color. There we go. Now we got that effect already working, which is moving from bottom to up like this. If you want, you could even add, you know, two parameters like constant 1, or press S to kind of add scalar parameter. Call it like speed X, speed Y, and then let's append both of this, or let's see, append. You could use append vector, or you could use make float to like this. Oh, that's not. here, this one. This both do the same thing. It will basically take this value and then this value and do like, let's say it is 1 0, then it will be 1 comma 0. This would also do the same, 1 comma 0, because you know we cannot just add directly like this because there are two values. So let's connect both of this and add here. Let's do 0.5 as the default ones. Okay, let's do apply. Now we have a control over here to quickly change the values. Let's say if I want to make it speed, if I want to rotate it in the opposite direction, if I want it to be faster. Okay, I've already explained this in much more detail in that big video. So we already got a sphere that is moving, but how about the inside part that is moving? So let's do this. Also, this is using same stuff, but there's one more stuff. I don't know if I should explain this in this video or not. I'll see if I'll just quickly do it. I'll not go in detail for making like you see this video. Let's create another sphere. Let's add another sphere, or let's just duplicate this one. So if you press Ctrl D, it will duplicate it. Let's make this have no material. So let's make it no material. Why is it at different location? Let's copy its location and then let's paste it here. I don't know why it is in different one. Okay, there we go. And let's make this smaller. So now it has this one inside of this. Let's create new material. M underscore, I don't know, inside sphere. And let's give it this stuff, which is sphere 3, right? Sphere 3. So let's quickly just do the same stuff that we have done already. And I'm going to keep it like this. So make this to be additive, unlit, and that's all. Let's add a 3 color. I'm not going to make a material instance for this one because I've already explained this way too many times. Let's make this like 50. Let's do apply. So you see, if you don't create material instance, you have to apply it every single time. And we got something in the center that is there. But now I want it to be moving. So if you look in here, it's kind of moving. And it's pretty easy to do. And again, like I said, if you make this sphere in Blender, you could add more subdivisions and that way the animation would look better inside of this. So to do this, I'm going to use this WPO, World Position Offset. And what it does is that it allows you to move the vertices. Now I cannot go in much detail for this one because it's like its own thing, but there's one quick stuff that we could do. So we could go in here, add our cloud texture like this. We have to pan this texture so that it moves. Or maybe let's not add this so that I can show what it does. Let's multiply this with this position offset, because this one just has 0 to 1 values, right? Because black and white, in black means 0, white means 1, and anything in between is like 0.5, 0.3. That's not much of a difference with the offsets in vertices. So if you multiply, let's say 1 with 50, then it will have like this effect. But you could see one issue that happens is that it always faces one direction, and for this you need to use something called vertex normal, WS. This is nothing but it takes the vertexes normal. So as for sphere, the vertexes normal would always face like outside its sphere. Okay, just search for vertex normal for sphere. Okay, you would find that. Or if you watch my like stylized landscape video, you would also understand it because I went into much more detail for it. So we need to multiply this with this stuff, and you could see we started getting some variation like this. And because it's a black and white texture, it's not constant. Like if there is 1, then it would be highest. If there's 0, there would be no effect. If there's 0.5, it would be half of this effect. And you could see it's way too much. So let's just connect a panner. Let's do 1, 1 or like 0.11, whatever works. And you could see we can check in here like real time and make this to be, I guess, 10. And you could see it is I don't like that how it is moving. Let's do 1, 1. So you could see we get this effect. And you could see one more thing, that it doesn't have much subdivision, so it doesn't look as clean, but for something like this small, it looks good enough. Now for a quick explanation on how to create, this much, we actually need to multiply 2 textures. So this texture, I'm just going to copy all of this, paste down. You could even convert this to a parameter so that you could have different material instances with different materials. Let's change this to x2, y2, because if you don't, then both of this value will change. I'm going to turn this into negative 0.5, so this moves up, this moves down. Just let's do this. Let's multiply this texture with this texture. This is what we get. With some weird effect, and then we can connect it in here, and then we can connect it in here. So you can see we get something like this. This one basically does not have any opacity added. So like this stuff, it's just not added. But it's still not going to look same because there's like a lot more effects that I've done. I don't think I can explain all that in this video. There's like different colors added. It's not opacity. There's some Fresnel added at the edge. I'll make this video in future, but for this beginner friendly, let's just keep it like this. Now for the last one, we are going to make this spinning stuff. So this one is also very easy to do. For this one, you're going to need a texture. So go to pixabay.com or any other site that you have and search for SawBlade. You could even use like your own texture or your own method or anything, or just your own completely different stuff. SawBlade, like SawBlade space. There we go. I use this texture, but I've done some changes. So let me show what the changes I've done. So you could see this is the same texture that I've used, but what I've done is I've actually painted this completely white and then removed the dots and all, except kept a dot in here. Because anything that is black would be invisible, because in opacity black is considered 0. Not in opacity, just in normal, black is considered 0. Pure white is considered 1. So when you add in opacity, wherever there's black it would be invisible, wherever there's pure white it will be fully visible. And then there's like 0.5, 0.3 if you use like gray values. So just create this texture, pretty easy to make in Photoshop, or if you don't have Photoshop, use the Photopea software, which is like Photoshop for free. You don't even need to download it, you could use it in the browser. It's like good, free, and it works in browser, and it's completely Photoshop, like no difference. So let's create our SawBlade materials. I'm going to call it M tutorial SawBlade. Let's click on this. Again, do it additive, unlit, and two-sided for this one. Let's add our texture. I'm going to search for my SawBlade texture. So I have two. I have one with a hole and one without hole, like this. Let's do is get a particle color, because I want to control its particle from, or its color from the particle. Let's multiply both of this. So whatever the color that you give, take this and then add to the multiply. And whenever you multiply a color with a black and white texture, it basically colors it, okay? Like nothing difference even if you use, let's say, a red color instead, like this, make this red. If I open this, you'll see it has basically colored it. So let's just multiply it. Let's get its alpha. Let's multiply its alpha too with this alpha so that we can control it. To be honest, we are not going to control it, but it's just a good practice to do it like this. Now make sure to be in a plane layout, because then you can see how it would look. And what I'm going to do now, there's multiple ways to do. You could actually use something called rotator and then rotate it in here if you want. You could rotate it in here. To remove this one, you will need to go in here and then select no repeating, but I'm not going to use this method, so let's just remove it. This is all that we need in here, okay? That's all the texture that we need. Let's create our emitter. Where is it? mt1 ne underscore SawBlade tutorial. There we go. Let's go to this stuff. Let's hide it and let's add it in here. Oops, not here, right here in the sprite render, not in here, in the any emitter. In the sprite renderer, let's choose our SawBlade material, tutorial SawBlade. I think it's this one. And then again, we don't need to do spawn rate, we have to do burst instantaneous, because I only want to spawn one of it. So you could see I spawned one of it only, it is staying there. In the particle update, we can add something called rotator. So when you search rotation, we have sprite rotation rate, there's mesh rotation and all that stuff, but we want sprite rotation rate. And let's make this 10, 50, 100 or something like this. Now, is it not updating? It's way too small. Let me move it a bit further. You could also see that it is not actually facing that direction. So why is it not updating? Okay, so if I press G, you could hide it, but you could say it's way too small. You know how we actually make it bigger? From here. Let's go and make it 100. So now it's big and nice. Let's go to our, wait, did I increase it from here? Oops. Let's increase it. Let's increase it from here. Let's go to the color and let's set it to be this one with 100 or 50, and let's apply. One issue you might be seeing is that no matter where I go, it always faces me, but in the previous one that I created, it always faces this direction. So here's what we need to do. We need to go to sprite render, set the alignment to be custom alignment like this. Now it doesn't automatically make it custom alignment. You need to go and do something like set new or existing parameter directly. Again, I'm doing it in particle spawn because I don't need to change it. If I wanted to change it, I would do in particle update. Now in the set parameter, we need to search for, I don't know what it is called, let's just search for sprite, and then we have alignment. There we go. So if I do it as Z, let's apply. Maybe it's sprite facing mode, I don't remember. Let's see. So yeah, sprites facing. So we did choose the, nope. Okay, my bad, it has to be sprite facing. So make sure to search for sprite facing and then choose it as Z2B1. Do we note, we don't need to do this, I think. Yeah. So this facing mode should be custom facing. Even though we didn't do anything, it will automatically be fixed. You could see it is now facing up. I think it will always face up. That's not good. So what we need to do is we need to go in here and set this to be local, like local space. Because if you don't do local space, you could see now let me remove this. You could see that if I move this, it does not move. And the problem with that is that if you add this to attack, it will basically not move. And usually it is good for not having local space for, you know, flames and stuff, because it needs to keep spawning different particles. But for this stuff, we will actually make this to be local space. Now it will follow this stuff. Okay, even rotate it. There are some limitations when you do local space. I don't know, I just have to play around with it, like when turning local space or off when you're trying to do some like weird stuff. Okay, for now, basic stuff, it's easy. So just remember, lots of the alignment facing mode, you need to set a parameter like this, which is pretty easy to do. Another thing that I should have taught you guys before, that is, let's say in initialize particle, and then you have like three different three different stuff in here. Okay, like this. So we also have this sparks, and then we also have this one, and then it is set to play. Let's say if you wanted to have like one single color for each one of them, you would go in here and then do randomly, right? Like one by one. There's an option here called user parameters. And if you go in here and do, let's say, color, you could choose a color and then say that like base color or something. and then you could simply just drag and drop it to this stuff like this, like drag around here or drag around here, and do it wherever you want to do like multiple stuff. And whenever you do changes in here, it will basically do for each one of them where you have used this parameter. That's one basic stuff that you need to know. It's not needed for this video, that's why I forgot, I think, but that's one thing that you could do. So if you, instead of making like multiple changes, you could just do one change and it will apply to everything. Now what we need to do is we want to create some particles around it, right? We can create second particle. Now instead of creating an emitter, I'm just going to do it in here. I think I've already explained it like way too many times how it works. So for now, let's just do it like this, okay? Initialize particles, I don't know about this, but sprite size, I'm going to make it like very small, like random uniform, 1 to 5. Let's do a spawn rate because I forgot that. Spawn rate to be 20. Nothing's visible. Let's isolate this like this, so it only shows this much. Let's go into particle update and add a vortex force. There we go. And let's do fix issue, and let's, now the vortex force amount is set to 200. Because it's in the center, it's not actually showing much, but if I go into the particle spawn and add a shape location, we can kind of see it working. You could see it is now rotating in a vortex. Maybe make it 500 and you could see it better. So let's go into shape location, and instead of sphere, let's select a ring. Now I'm going to show both of this so that we can see it nicer. It's way too much. And again, if you want to move it just the way you move in the editor, you could turn the edit orbit mode off, okay? Then you would be able to move it just like you move in editor, else you would not be able to move it same way. The shape location should be, I don't know why it is 50 even though we have set this to be 100, but let's just see. 50 works better, I think, for me. Yeah, don't know why this is weird because it is 100, this is 50, so not sure why that happens. We can actually do the color stuff for this one, why not? Let's do color in here, and let's do direct set, and let's set the color in here. And now if I change this, it will set both of this. There we go. And then you just need to play around with the, like, how long it will last. So I'll do random, 1 to 2 seconds looks good enough. I'll do scale color, alpha, float from curve, and then at the end I want it to be hidden. So this is one thing that you need to do. Yeah, and then you could reduce the lifetime mode or increase the speed, and that's all you need to do for this one. So you could see how the vortex moves. Just play around with the particle values and everything would be same. So this one is same, you could see. It's just faster, and then need to play around with the values. So yeah, that's all for this video. If you want to know more and learn more as I progress, I will be making some more of this stuff and getting more in details in future. So keep that in mind. I will be creating lots of tutorials like VFX, this laser ones, and all that stuff that I'm learning. And as I learn, I will also start showing how to make all this stuff. So yeah, goodbye, thanks for watching, and like and subscribe. Bye bye.